Welcome everyone once again to Across the Goal Line, a sports podcast brought to you by diehard fans. Corey Maines and Luke Goddard, and today we'll bring you the following. We have the first race of the Chase from Chicagoland this past Sunday, as well as the conclusion of the WWE Cruiserweight Classic from the semifinals into the finals is what we're going to cover. And we also have our weekly football reviews and picks for both college and the NFL. And to cap off the show today, we'll have our predictions for the WWE Clash of Champions that's on Sunday. And before we get into anything else, we have the results from last week's question of the week, where we asked you how much longer do you see the national anthem protests lasting for. And most of you believe that it will continue for some time to come. I didn't have the exact numbers here with you, but
I believe it was 80-20.
About 80-20? Yeah. But everyone's pretty much leaning towards it's going to keep going for quite a while to come. Either way, I mean, now it's time to kick off the show, and as usual, we'll talk some NASCAR, and for that, I'll throw it over to Luke.
Yeah, recently we've been sending it over to me every single week when we talk about NASCAR now, because I'm pretty much the only one who watches NASCAR between, the two of us and other family members, whatnot. But yeah, Martin Truex Jr. won at Chicagoland, who you picked.
Yes.
I picked Brad Keselowski to win. He was up there towards the lead of the pack, the head of the pack towards the end of the race, but Truex Jr. won. As you said, it was the first race, the Chase. They got a lot more races left. As I said previously, they'll be racing up until Thanksgiving. And next week, they're at New Hampshire again for the second time this season. It seems like we just talked about it. Time sure does fly. Matt Kenseth won back in July when they were there, already this year, as I just said. So, trying to think on who I'm going to pick. I think I'm going to pick Kenseth. He's owned Loudon recently. See if he can go for 2 straight this year, and I believe 3 or 4 straight over the past 2 seasons.
Yeah, Kenseth, he's a good pick for this week. I was thinking about taking him. I think I might go out on a limb here. I'm going to take a young guy. I'm going to take Chase Elliott in this one.
All right. Took over for Jeff Gordon, who raced longer, who actually came back after he got done announcing with Fox, halfway through the year, after, television stuff gets switched over, because Dale Jr., was injured, had a concussion, he's out for the whole season, and Gordon came back and raced longer than what he, thought, but he's done for the year now, so I believe he's done for the year now. I might have to check up on that, but next we're going to have the WWE Cruiserweight Classic, and I'm going to send it back to Corey.
Yes, the WWE Cruiserweight Classic has concluded this past Wednesday night. They crowned their first ever Cruiserweight Classic champion live on the WWE Network.
For only $9.99.
Yes.
Actually, I think I said this. I got charged. I think I might have told you off air.
Yes.
I don't know if I said this on air.
Yes, you did.
I got charged. I know I said it on here now, and now that I bring that back up, I got charged like 10 something, for the month of September. So yeah, as I said, I know I said that on here now. So if anybody has looked into that for me or knows anything about it, let me know.
Yeah.
But yeah, WWE Network's only $9.99 a month.
Yes, and you get to see all the great action that WWE has to offer. Not only that, also from WCW back in the day and some other stuff too,
They have a lot of content on them.
A lot of content, a lot of original shows. WWE, please. We keep trying.
We keep trying to, we plug you every single time we talk about you.
We're working hard.
We are.
We just want that endorsement deal.
We want an endorsement. We want our own show on the network. We want, free tickets to every single event. You guys, come to every single event that's in our area. We actually got one coming up this weekend.
Yes.
We've talked about it before. It's just a live event, but we still get to see our favorite superstars. It's going to be all the SmackDown superstars, because it is this Sunday, September 25th, 2016, from the Bryce Jordan Center in Happy Valley, State College, Pennsylvania. And it's also the same day as WWE Clash of Champions, so all the Raw superstars are going to be out in Indianapolis for that, so all the SmackDown people are going to be here. But yeah, we'll be at that.
Yes,
we'll be posting pictures or videos, depending on what I want to take. But yeah, let's get back to the Cruiserweight Classic now, which was on the WWE Network for only $9.99.
Yes, one last time we get that in. But yes, This night, past Wednesday, it featured the semifinal and the final rounds of the 32-man tournament that began months ago now. And the semifinals saw T.J. Perkins take on Kota Ibushi, and then the other match, Grand Metalik took on Zack Sabre Jr. And Sabre and Ibushi, they were many of the people's favorites to make the finals and or to win the tournament, but both would fall here in the semifinals in a pair of great matches that were basically the norm for this entire tournament when you look at it, because almost every match, if you watched it, was all pretty well contested, and they were mostly all really good matches with great high-flying action, typical of a cruiserweight division of sorts, you could say. But the finals were set as Grand Metalik took on T.J. Perkins, and a little twist was added to the final as Triple H announced that the winner of this final would not only win the tournament and the trophy, but also be crowned the Cruiserweight Champion for Raw.
Which was really surprising. I thought maybe they would... Well, as I said before, if they had Ibushi win because they had him debut on NXT a couple months ago after this first started, maybe have him win and then bring it up. But so it was surprising, but then at the same time it wasn't. But yeah, go on.
Yeah, it's not that surprising, especially with they wanted to debut the Cruiserweights, get them established, I feel, and then plus Clash of Champions coming up, adding another championship to the card to make sure that it goes for a while. I'm sure
because all Raw championships will be defended this Sunday at Clash of Champions, since they split the brands now.
Yeah, so it feels a little rushed because you win, you're the champ now, without anyone on any people in Raw ever seeing this guy in action. You can only see him on the WWE Network so far. No one even knows who T.J. Perkins is, even because he wasn't even on Raw this past week either.
No, he was not.
He was not, which is another surprise. But
he'll be making his main roster debut this Sunday at the pay-per-view.
Which is amazing when you think about it, because
they did have 4 of the
they did
superstars they were on Raw.
Yeah, I'll get into that a little later here. But either way, I guess we pretty much alluded to this already. Grand Metalik lost to Perkins in this final round, and Perkins is now the WWE Cruiserweight Champion.
Yep. Which
I said it feels a little rushed because you're the champion, and now you're going to debut at Clash of Champions here in a couple weeks. You're not even going to have you're not even going to have a match on Raw or anything before your defense. So he's going to make his first defense here at Clash of Champions. A little bit more on that later here as I go through, and also later in the show when we predict Clash of Champions where he will be defending that title. But either way, it was because of this edition of the Cruiserweight Championship that I feel like Ibushi or Sabre, they didn't win, obviously. Neither's really signed. I know Sabre's definitely not signed. Ibushi was in NXT once. I don't know if he's officially signed with WWE. But they're not signed with WWE, so they can't really put a title on either of them because they're not signed with WWE. They can't actually perform on the WWE roster or brand, so it doesn't make sense. But I could have seen one of them making the finals at least, possibly. But I guess it makes sense. Perkins in general makes sense as the first title holder winning the tournament in this fashion because he kind of is a veteran of the business. He knows how to handle himself on a bigger stage, a bigger promotion. Because he was in TNA when TNA was pretty... It was actually kind of relevant, almost competing with WWE, in a sense, years ago. No one really saw him, though. He was masked. He was a Suicide as a masked guy. Later called Manic, later on. But he was the X Division champion in TNA at one point as Suicide.
It was whenever Hulk Hogan was in TNA.
Yes, so that's when they were actually trying to compete with WWE. But... the X Division Championship is basically the Cruiserweight Championship of TNA.
Yes.
At least that's how it's been billed. Some people have won that championship without being really Cruiserweight, but either way. But now, Perkins, he gets to make that title defense at Clash of Champions, as I've already said. It's going to be against Brian Kendrick, who won a number 1 contender Fatal 4-Way match on Raw just this past Monday against 3 other men that were in that Cruiserweight Classic.
It's the Brian Kendrick.
The Brian Kendrick. He was just called Brian Kendrick in the tournament. Then they called him the Brian Kendrick when they came out for Raw this Monday. But I don't know I don't know what it is. But either way, he won that match against 3 other guys that were in the Classic: Cedric Alexander, Rich Swann, and the runner-up Grand Metalik, who he's the runner-up. I already mentioned that.
Get with it, Corey.
Yeah, get with it. We'll get more into that match as we predict. We'll predict Clash of Champions here at the end of the show. So we'll get into that match, Perkins-Kendrick, for the Cruiserweight Championship when we get into Clash of Champions. But now the time has come to go into college football for this past week as we look at week 3 of the college football season. A lot of big matchups from this past weekend. And I feel like I just want to kind of get this out of the way right now. We always kind of ask what team impressed us the most, and there's pretty much a no-brainer for this week. It's Louisville.
Oh, for sure, Corey.
Because they went out at home and absolutely destroyed then number 2 in the nation, Florida State. Yeah, 63-20.
Yeah, it was Florida State's worst loss in program history, which is a pretty fantastic stat because Florida State's been around for a real long time. So yeah, Louisville team that really impressed this past week.
Definitely, and the quarterback Jackson. We were talking about him off air and also last week about will he be able to keep up the numbers that he's been putting up. He had 13 touchdowns through just 2 games. Now he had 5 more on Saturday.
1 passing and 4 rushing, so brings it to a total of 18 through 3 games, 3 weeks. But I don't want to forget about this other guy too. I saw a stat yesterday. Texas Tech's quarterback also has 18 touchdowns through 3 weeks, 3 games. So maybe there's going to be a little bit of competition there. But I'm thinking, Louisville and Lamar Jackson, this team, they might. I don't know if they're good enough to win the national championship this year, but it sure as hell looks like they'll be making a push for the college football playoff come end of November, December.
I mean, they're in it right now. They're number 3 now, ranked. So,
which is where they should be. They beat the number 2 team in the country at home.
Destroyed the number 2 team in the country.
Yes.
So, I mean, you got to boost them up. In Florida State, they dropped all the way to like 13 or something like that. I think it's 13, if I remember correctly. But either way, I mean, that's definitely the team that impressed. Jackson, again, definitely, he's winning the Heisman right now, no doubt about it, unanimously, I would have to say. No one is really doing much to compare with him, I would feel.
Right now, yes. It's only the 3rd week of the season now. Going into the 4th week.
Yeah,
we still got a lot of football left to be played, ladies and gentlemen. You don't want to get over, you don't want to over-exaggerate, get, hyped up about something, but Louisville looks, in recent years, Louisville looks like one of the best teams, personally for me, I've seen, and especially Lamar Jackson, just as a player. But we'll have to see. I mean, as I said, it's early in the season. It's always a tale of 2 halves.
Yeah.
Especially in a football game, but then as a season too. Maybe Louisville goes 6-0 first 6 weeks of the season, and then, they win maybe 2 of their last 6 games and finish at 8-4 or whatnot. We'll have to find out and see, but it's always a tale of 2 halves. I mean, look at perfect example as a game just recently. Look at the Penn State Pitt game, and I wanted to talk about this, last week after Penn State lost, but I didn't because there wasn't really a perfect spot to talk about it. Penn State was down 28-14 at halftime. Everybody thought the game was over. Pitt won the game. The game's not over until there's 0-0-0 left on the clock after the 4th quarter, or, overtime, or 2 overtimes, 3 overtimes. You get the point. So Penn State fought back and everything, but we'll have to see. I mean, as I said, Louisville just looks so damn good right now.
They do. We're talking a lot about Jackson. We're going to talk more about Jackson at the end of the show because he is a part of our question of the week this week. We'll be talking more about him and his future possibly as well. So we'll have to see. We'll get into that question of the week this week. But
stay tuned.
Yeah, stay tuned because we'll have some more on him. But back to what we normally do here for our college football review from the past week. We'll go right into it. Our normal first question is, what was the biggest upset from this past week? I know there really wasn't a huge upset, but there was one really big upset, which we're both agreeing on. But
yeah, it had been North Dakota State over then 13th ranked Iowa in Iowa City at now Kinnick Stadium. North Dakota State has 6 consecutive wins on the road against FBS teams, starting in 2010. So 6 straight years. 2010, they went to Kansas, beat them by a score of only 6-3. Win's a win. 2011, Carson Wentz's first year, he redshirted. They went to Minneapolis, played at Minnesota, won by a score of 37-24. 2012, they went to Colorado State, 122-7. 2013, Carson Wentz's first year as a starter for the Bison, however the hell you want to say it. We live in Clearfield. Our high school mascot was a bison, and now it's Bisons, but they're saying it's bison. But oh well. Talk to people around Clearfield about that. They're still pissed off. 2013, his first year, they went to Manhattan, Kansas, and played AARP and Bill Snyder's team, Kansas State, and beat them by a score of 24-21. 2014, excuse me, I messed up. I read that wrong. 2015, they didn't play anybody. 2014, they went to Iowa State and won 34-14, and then, this past Saturday, they went to Iowa City, as I just said, and won 23-21 on a game-winning field goal, too, by the way. And it was the first ever win versus an AP-ranked FBS team for an FCS school in North Dakota State. So, yeah, biggest upset had been North Dakota State over Iowa.
It was really the only real upset when you look at it. There were some other minor upsets, Nebraska beating Oregon and Cal beating Texas, but
really those aren't upsets in my opinion,
upsets.
And I don't think your opinion either.
Neither of them are like gigantic upsets. I mean, we both picked Nebraska to win that game anyway.
Yeah, and now
an example.
I mean, you got to root for the Big Ten, and Nebraska was part of the Big 12. So, now there's talks North Dakota State to go to the FBS level because they've beaten 6 teams from the FBS level in recent years. There's been talks that I'm going to either the Big 10, the Big 12, or the Pac-12. We actually, discussed this before we started recording here and wrote down on the list of across the goal line on how, maybe college football does get realigned, because they've been in talks. Just not North Dakota State, other teams as well. You have Houston, maybe go to the Big 12. So really, if you add North Dakota State and Houston to the Big 12 is fine. They have 12 teams again, and then nothing needs to happen, everywhere else. But maybe you bring back the SWAC, maybe, something like that. We'll have to see. But yeah, North Dakota State, they're for real, folks. Be sure to check them out if they're ever on TV. Or if you can ever go to the Fargo Dome, if you live out in North Dakota and you're listening to us, let us know what the Fargo Dome's like, because we've never been there.
Yeah. Getting back to the actual game, definitely the only upset, because, we both picked Iowa. We picked them big over North Dakota here in this game, so you said it was probably going to be a blowout, I'm pretty sure, and I said they were pulled out late in the game, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I believe I said Iowa big. I have my stuff pulled up from last week. Let me look here real quick. I have it right here. Yeah, I said... Well, no, Hawkeyes won a much closer game than the experts think in Iowa City come Saturday. So,
all right.
They only lost by 2, but North Dakota State's a win, 1. So a win's a win, a loss is a loss. I was still surprised. I still had to pick Iowa. They're part of the Big Ten. You got to support your conference. Week in and week out. And I'll get more into that when we talk about the Michigan State-Notre Dame game, because I actually picked Notre Dame when I know I shouldn't have. And you guys know what happened in that game, obviously. But
yes, and now we go to what was the best game from this past weekend in college football? For you, at least.
Well, there's a lot of good ones, I thought, this past week. It's really hard to choose from. That Michigan State-Notre Dame game can be one of them. Michigan State actually scored first and went for 2 to start the game. So they converted it. They're up 8-0, and then Notre Dame scored, so it was 8-7. But then Michigan State went on a run and it ended at 36-7. But then Notre Dame scored 3 consecutive touchdowns in the second half. There, came back 36-28 then, and that was obviously the final score. But what if Notre Dame would have scored again? They would have had gone for 2. So pretty much a good call by Mark D'Antonio there in first half, pretty much first 5 minutes of the game when they scored to go for 2, because then that game could have went to overtime then if Notre Dame would have scored, and we could have had a different outcome. As I said, there's a lot of good games really hard to choose from. That had been one of them. Alabama Ole Miss I thought was another Louisville obviously blew out Florida State. And then Oregon going to Lincoln, and how Nebraska won. But Nebraska, it really wasn't a huge upset. Nebraska was down last year. They lost to 3 different teams by less than 5 points, I believe. Still made it to a bowl game with a record of 5-7. Last year there was 3 teams, Minnesota being another from the Big Ten, that had a record of 5-7 that went to a bowl game. Normally you have to be 6-6, but they won. But as I said, they lost a couple close games last year. Mike Riley has them back on track. In his second year there. And Lincoln, they've sold out 301 consecutive home games. That's ridiculous. It goes all the way back to 1962. Hell, that's when John Fitzgerald Kennedy was in office of the United States for the presidency. That is, oh my God, that just gets me. I mean, how do you sell out, 301 consecutive home games?
I mean, it does have to do with the fact that it's Nebraska. They don't really have a major football team anywhere.
That is true.
That is pretty much their sport in the state of Nebraska.
Yeah.
So,
that is true.
It only lends itself to the general public of Nebraska.
That and college.
Plus, Lincoln's a huge town in general.
Oh, yeah. That and college wrestling out in the Midwest are 2 big sports.
But, yeah. I mean, if you live in Nebraska, Lincoln is the place to be.
Yeah, for sure.
So, there's not really much in Nebraska. I've been through Nebraska. It's a long state, and there's just a whole bunch of fields and stuff. It's all cornfields, and Lincoln is pretty much the lone bright spot. You get past there, and there's not much else.
Yeah.
Because I drove out to Colorado past summer here. I had to go through Nebraska. It's the longest time of your life, pretty much, because I was just on the interstate the whole time. You're going through the longest part. You're going through the width of Nebraska. It's just it gets kind of boring, but
I'm sure it does.
Yeah, but Lincoln is definitely a bright spot.
Not unless you have some good tunes cranked up on radio.
No, yeah, for sure. But back to the football games. Alabama Ole Miss was another good one. It was a game that I thought was over at a couple of points. I mean, Ole Miss went up by 20 or around 17 points. Yeah, like 24-7 in the second half after a turnover by Alabama, strip sack, fumble, return, touchdown.
And then there's a penalty on that play. It was in the second quarter, not the second half. There's a penalty on that play. There's a cheap shot block in the back, whatever the hell you want to call it, before he reached the end zone, but they still counted the touchdown. But Alabama came back. Was it 24-17 then at halftime, I think it was?
Something like that.
Yeah.
It was close.
And at 24-17 halftime. And then Alabama kept going up, and they scored their 46 total points, or 48 total points. But then Ole Miss started coming back. It was a good week, another good weekend in college football. As I said, there's a lot of good games. I actually had 2 games up on my laptop, and then 1 on my TV. So I was watching all 3 of those games at once. Being what I say, Oregon, Nebraska, Alabama, Ole Miss, and what was the other good game I thought of?
The one you talked about was Louisville and Florida State.
Oh, no, that was at noon. I had the Colorado-Michigan game up because Penn State plays at Michigan, so I wanted to see how Michigan played. And that game was much closer, too. I thought Michigan was going to blow them out.
At first, yeah. And then Michigan blew them out in the end. But
they only won by, 17, but, still.
It was the result everyone expected from Michigan in that game, pretty much. At least a bigger win, but yeah.
This is why college football is exciting, folks. That's why it's my most favorite sport. It's always fun, exciting games every week in and week out. But yeah, going back to that Alabama Ole Miss game, you want to finish up on that? If you had anything else to say about it?
Yeah, I mean, you pretty much finished up for me how Alabama came back. They were up. I thought it was going to be over, and then I saw the final scoreline. I'm like, wow, Ole Miss was only like 1 score away from tying that game or almost winning that game.
Yep.
Like, unbelievable. I did not see that from Ole Miss. I mean, I watched some of that game. It was on. I was flipping between that and Oregon, Nebraska, which is what I'm going to call my favorite game from this past weekend, Nebraska, Oregon. The atmosphere in Lincoln is amazing. That kind of adds to the experience of watching it.
Oh, for sure.
You get the crowd. I mean, it just adds a little something. Like I say about it, in like for WWE and stuff. If the crowd's into it, I get into it more.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Because I mean, they're enjoying it. Why should
especially if you're there?
Yeah, but it was a good game though. I mean, marred by kind of a bonehead play by Oregon at the end of the game, 4th and 20 something, and you're gonna run it with the game on the line.
Yeah, 4th and 22. They're in a quarterback draw. I was talking to you about this earlier, and then they had a guy wide open on the sideline, past first down marker, and they don't throw it to him, and they get sacked. Game's over then with 20 seconds left.
Maybe not as big as a bonehead play from the Auburn Texas A&M game where on 4th down the guy ran out of bounds. Instead of
I did see that. Yes, I did see that.
Instead of the guy, instead of trying to get out of bounds, he ran out of bounds instead of trying to get the first down.
On 4th down.
He tried.
That is a bonehead play.
I mean, speaking of bonehead plays, there was the Oklahoma Ohio State game. The guy kick return touchdown, dropped the ball before he got in the end zone. No one saw it though. And
there's been how many of those in 3 weeks so far in college football?
The Cal Texas game had one, I think, too.
Yeah, at the end of the game. Yeah, I had picked Texas to win, and that happens. So you had that game. There was a Clemson game 2 weeks ago. The guy did that. The Oklahoma game, and then there was something else too.
I know Dalvin Cook fumbled it.
That's what it was on Labor Day. Yeah, he fumbled it on about the 2 or 3 yard line. He it went out of bounds, so whoever touched it last, maintains.
Yeah, he had a clear path to the end
possession.
Fumbled.
Yeah,
trying to switch hands.
How do you do that? It's just,
but not as bad as dropping the ball before you get in the end zone.
How don't you know you're not in the end zone yet? It just doesn't make sense.
Why don't you it's common sense to just drop the ball after you get in the end zone.
Yes.
Like make sure you're in the back of the end zone before you let go of the ball.
And then there's another bonehead play. I don't know if you saw it, Corey. It was the Clemson game this week. They were playing South Carolina State. It was in the middle of the first quarter. Clemson was up 14-0. They had just scored, kicked off. And you know how if you're a returner, you...
Oh, I think I know where this is going.
You can either knee it, or if the ref blows the whistle, it's a dead then.
I think this.
The ref didn't blow the whistle, and the player threw the ball to the ref. The ref did not catch it or anything, so the ball was just laying in the end zone.
And they pick it up for touchdown.
And Clemson just falls on it. It's a touchdown, Clemson. They're up 21-0 then. How don't you know the play's not dead? Yeah. He did not blow the whistle, and you did not take a knee. You just pitched him the ball as soon as you caught it. That's a fumble. That's a live ball. You should probably be kicked off your team for that. Maybe suspended. He probably won't play this week coming up. I don't even know who South Carolina State plays, nor do I care. So that was another bonehead play. And we're only 3 weeks in.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of fun, exciting games to watch, but then there also has been a lot of fun funny and stupid, plays that we can, sit here and laugh about.
Also, that Clemson game, they had to shorten the quarters.
Oh, yeah, I read about that, too.
So bad.
Oh, my God, yeah. Come the second half, they're down like 45-0. South Carolina State's down like 45-0. They agree. They tell Clemson they want to shorten the third quarter to 12 minutes instead of 15, and then come the fourth quarter, they want to shorten it to 10 minutes. It's like, don't you have any comment? Don't you have any balls to, don't you want to play all 60 minutes? Maybe you come back because that extra 7 minutes, maybe maybe you can. But hell, you're South Carolina State. You're playing in Death Valley against Clemson. There's no way in hell you're going to come back. But you get what I'm trying to say. Why in the hell do you shorten the game?
Yeah, at least have some pride. They just said, "Nah, we're getting killed. Screw it, mercy."
They still got paid.
Yeah.
They still got paid. To go in and get their ass kicked. But it's, oh my God, I don't even know what to say anymore. I think I've said enough.
Yeah, we said enough about that. I mean, we already did our most impressive team for this week. We still have to do our biggest disappointment of a team this week.
We've been on this for like 15, 20 minutes.
Just that one question. But we got to do the most disappointing team from this past week as well. Which, again, there's not really anyone too disappointing, you could say.
Disappointed? Florida State, they're number 2 in the country. They went to Louisville. I say Louisville. Home of the late, great, Cassius Clay, Muhammad Ali. His daughter, Layla, was a special guest picker on College Game Day this past week, too. So, anyways, they're playing in Louisville. They're second-ranked team in the country. And they had their worst loss in program history. They lost by 43 points. Lamar Jackson had 5 touchdowns. That's 35 points. Say he still doesn't even play, they still lose.
Yeah.
The game would have been much closer, but just going by that, if he doesn't play, you still got to start at 0-0. You can't go by that, but at the same time, you can. So I'd have to say Florida State really disappointed. But if they were playing at home, and this happened, for sure the worst, the team that really disappointed if they were playing at home. But still, they were playing on the road. They shouldn't have lost that bad. But Florida State, who do you have?
Florida State for sure is definitely one of them. You're talking number 2 in the country, and you got there and lay an egg pretty much because they only got a couple more points because Louisville was killing them. It's not because the garbage time as we call it. The defense is just like, well, we're up by 50 points. We'll give them a touchdown. We don't care. The defense isn't expending as much energy because they don't need to.
Not unless your coach tells you the spread is this, and there's a bet out there and he's winning money or something, or somebody hollers from the crowd telling you can't let them score.
Yeah,
people sitting at home doing that because sometimes the spread is something like that, and you can't. If the team scores and you lose all this money, but if they don't, you win all this money or something.
Yeah, but also, Georgia, again, disappointing as a top 15 team in the country, top 25 team in general, I guess. Barely winning again this week against Missouri, needing a last-minute touchdown to win it. That game there by 1 point after barely winning the previous week as well. So they're a team that I have on upset alert this week not exactly upset. They play Ole Miss, who's 23.
They play at Ole Miss.
Yeah, they're playing Ole Miss. So they're a team that I have going down this week, that's where we're going now. So as we conclude that, we're going into week 4 now with the picks. And, of course, we have the FCS and stuff. Changing up this week, well, not really. Luke's going to be pretty much presenting all the games to us. But we'll obviously be picking them. But, yeah, just for easy's sake, we're going to have Luke now. For the FCS, of course, to begin.
The FCS, I went 2-1 last week. It was the North Dakota State game that lost. And then Corey went 1-2. He had Iowa, obviously, and then he picked Delaware or Wake Forest. I'm 7-1 on the year in the FCS. He's 6-2. This week, I have Samford at Chattanooga, Montana at Cal Poly, and Illinois at Indiana State. So going back to the first game there, Samford at Chattanooga. Who do you have, Corey?
I'm going to go with Chattanooga.
I'm going to go with Samford. Both these teams are undefeated right now. It should be a close game. Don't really know a whole about these teams, but I'm going to go with Samford. I might change my mind here in the next couple minutes. I don't know. Because it's the FCS. We don't really get to watch these games. We get to watch the FBS games. Montana, I think we've had every single week picking.
Almost. Yeah.
Almost. Maybe the second week we didn't. I don't remember. I really don't care. Montana at Cal Poly. I'm going to go with Montana.
Yeah, I'm going Montana as well.
Grizz, Jeff Fisher, the Rams finally won. His son played there, as I said last week. The Rams, they still played like a 7-9 shit team, but they still won over the Seahawks because they will get more into the Seahawks too because they disappointed again. We agree on. So you're picking Montana too?
Yes.
Okay. Finally, certainly not least, Illinois State and Indiana State. I saw Indiana State play back in 2011. Sycamores, alma mater of Larry Bird. I believe both these teams are undefeated so far in the season as well. I mean, yeah, it's only week 4 going into, but still, you're undefeated. You haven't lost. One of these teams will. I'm going to have to go Indiana State.
I am also going to go Indiana State in that one.
All right. Now, moving on to the FBS, we have 14 games this week, so a total of 17 for college football. Thursday night, September 22nd. Actually, tonight, if you're listening to this, since we uploaded it today. Recording on Wednesdays now, if you didn't hear. ACC matchup, Clemson at Georgia Tech. As I said, I went 10-2 last week. What'd you go? 9-3?
9-3.
Yeah, I'm 24-16 on the year. You're 26-14 on the year. So Clemson at Georgia Tech. Both these teams are undefeated. As I thought I said, ACC matchup though. I know I said that. Who do you have?
I'm going to go Clemson. I think they got back on track last week in that crushing win. So I'm going to go Clemson here.
I'm going to take Paul Johnson over Dabo Swinney in an upset. I'm taking the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets over Clemson at home. Ted Roof's defense down at Georgia Tech has gotten better. He played there. He actually was defense coordinator for Penn State back in 2012 whenever Bill O'Brien was in his first year as head coach. So that's Thursday night. Friday night, TCU, TCU plays at SMU. SMU's undefeated. TCU could be. They lost to Arkansas 2 weeks ago in overtime. Their SMU's head coach, not Chad Kelly, that's the quarterback for Ole Miss. Oh, shit, what's his name? Anyways, he was whatever his name is, he was the offensive coordinator at Clemson when Taj Boyd was quarterback. I think he left too soon to take a head coaching job with the Mustangs. I think he should have stayed another year or two. Maybe, he's at a better school than SMU, but they're undefeated. TCU's just too good, though. TCU.
Yeah, I'm going to have to go with the Horned Frogs at home in this one.
Come Saturday, we have the remaining 12 games. Georgia at Ole Miss, Wisconsin, Michigan State, East Carolina, Virginia Tech are the first 3 there. We'll get more into the other ones here after we pick the winners for these. Georgia Ole Miss, I believe it's early in the day. It might be at 3:30. Georgia, as you said, has disappointed past 2 weeks. Almost lost to Nicholls State and then had to beat Missouri at the end of the game. This past week, Ole Miss coming off that Alabama loss. They're still playing at home. I'm going to have to take the Rebels.
I, too, am going to take the Rebels of Ole Miss. They looked pretty good last week against Alabama. Pretty formidable against Alabama at home. I mean, now they're at home this week against a pretty disappointing Georgia team. It's the recipe for success for the Ole Miss this week, I think.
All right, next is Wisconsin, Michigan State, as I just said. It's at noon on Big Ten Network. Big Ten Network has their own college game day-like show premiering this Saturday from East Lansing. We'll have to see how that, plays out, see if it's worth watching or not. I'll probably still watch it either way. You got DVR, you can watch college game day and that, once the games are over or whatnot. Wisconsin almost lost to Georgia State at home last week. Hell, they're playing on the road against the Spartans in Spartan Stadium this week. Michigan State went into South Bend last week. I didn't pick them. I should have. I can now. You just can't pick Notre Dame. If you're a Big Ten fan, you got to pick the Big Ten over them week in and week out. But I didn't. I picked Notre Dame, but at the same time, Notre Dame almost came back and won, so I would have been happy if they would have won. So a little contradicting there, but Michigan State's playing at home. Wisconsin didn't look good last week, and Michigan State had a big win last week, so I'm gonna have to take Michigan State.
Yeah, similarly, picking Michigan State, similar reasons as you did, because I haven't really seen much from Wisconsin, apart from the season opening win against LSU at Lambeau.
Which they only won by 2 points.
Yeah, which wasn't even that impressive in itself. I mean, LSU's kind of slumped a little bit since. They haven't been that great. I mean, they barely beat Mississippi State last week. They only won by 3, LSU did. So,
yeah.
I mean, that
they did start a new quarterback though.
Yeah, okay.
And Danny Etling, he was a Purdue transfer. Actually saw him play when Purdue played at Penn State a couple years ago.
So Wisconsin, I mean, they're 11 right now. I don't know if they're 100% deserving of it. They're only that high because of that LSU victory. But Michigan State, definitely too strong. At home, yeah, I'm going to have to go Michigan State.
Yeah, Tyler O'Connor, as I said last week, maybe he turns into something. He proved me wrong. The reason why I picked Notre Dame, too, I didn't think he could have went into his second away start. He went into Columbus last year in Ohio State and beat them, and then going to South Bend and beat Notre Dame for your first two away starts as a starter. That's pretty impressive. So O'Connor, proved me wrong, and I'm gonna have to pick Michigan State probably from here on out, unless there's a game. They're playing somebody I like better. East Carolina at Virginia Tech, ACC Conference USA matchup. Hokies, they look good in week 1. Week 2, they played Tennessee at the Battle of Bristol. Didn't play too well. They did in the first half, but not in the second half. That's why I said tale of two halves earlier. You got to play a full 60 minutes. East Carolina, they're undefeated for the first time since 2008 too, by the way. I saw that. But I don't think it's going to be. I don't think they're good enough for Virginia Tech. I got Virginia Tech big.
At home, Virginia Tech. I like that pick. I'm gonna have to go Virginia Tech.
Blacksburg's a tough place to play. Enter Sandman. That crowd gets wild whenever they play it. So, yeah, Virginia Tech. We go north from Blacksburg to Landover, Maryland now. BYU's coming across country to play the Mountaineers of West Virginia. And their first ever meeting, too, by the way. BYU, I picked them week 1, they lost. I picked against them week 2, they won. And this past week, I picked UCLA over BYU. I got that right. So, and one of our buddies goes down to West Virginia, so for school. So, Mountaineers, closer than what people think, though. Much closer than what people think.
Yeah, I got to go Big 12, of course, at home, West Virginia. I pick BYU every week, though, but it ends here, so... BYU, a team we featured on every week so far.
Yeah, they've been
surprisingly.
They played. Who they play week 1?
Arizona.
That's a Pac-12 school.
Utah.
They played Utah, another Pac-12 school.
UCLA.
They played UCLA this past week, another Pac-12 school. Now they go to the Big 12. And play the Mountaineers of West Virginia. Maybe BYU, as I said earlier, we were talking about conference realignment. Maybe BYU goes to either the Pac-12 or the Big 12. Maybe the Big 12 adds North Dakota State, Houston, BYU. Who else could they add? Because then they'd be at 14 then. Trying to think off the top of our heads. We'll get back to you on that. But yeah, West Virginia. It's a neutral site game. BYU's coming across country, much closer to West Virginia. Florida at Tennessee. This is where College Game Day is at this week. Tennessee hasn't beaten Florida in 8 years, I think. Maybe.
Something like that.
It might be even longer than that. I might have my stat wrong. Neyland Stadium, going to be rocking. Tennessee's at their prime for the first time since Philip Fulmer was head coach. Florida just lost her quarterback for a couple weeks, Luke Del Rio. He's the son of Jack Del Rio, the head coach for the Oakland Raiders, former head coach of Jacksonville Jaguars. He's been doing some riverboat gambling in his first couple weeks. They lost this past week to the Falcons at home. Came down to 2 seconds left in the game. They lost on a Hail Mary, but and then they won week 1 against the Saints. They went for 2 there at the end. So a little riverboat gambling for him. But yeah, Luke Del Rio's kid, he actually went to, I think this might be his third school. I know it's his second for sure. He went to Oklahoma State there first, and then he transferred to Florida. But he might have been somewhere before that. But Tennessee, they've proved me wrong too early in the season so far. So Tennessee at home.
I will also have to go Tennessee, mostly because of the Del Rio injury. When I first saw this
come
up as the next game on CBS, because I was watching Ole Miss Alabama last week, that came up. I'm like, oh, that's going to be a great game. And then I see that Del Rio got hurt. I'm like, oh, maybe not so much now. So I think Tennessee at home, that gives me even more of an advantage here for this game.
Yeah, especially on the road for Florida. Yeah. Without him. Maybe if they're playing at home, maybe I'd pick him. I don't know.
Yeah, so that streak you talked about, I think it's going to end this week.
Yes. Butch Jones really hasn't, their head coach really hasn't said a whole lot about Tennessee. Now, when Lane Kiffin was there for the year, every single day he's saying, we're beating Florida this year, because they hadn't beaten them in how many years, and that streak's been going on. But as you said, I think this streak will end Tennessee over Florida. Now, Pitt beat Penn State a couple weeks ago. I picked against them last week, picked Oklahoma State. I was right. They play at North Carolina this week. In an ACC matchup, start conference play. But I can't pick Pitt. You know that, Corey.
Yeah.
North Carolina had a good game against Georgia. They lost. They went to Champaign, Illinois then, and beat Illinois by 13, I think it was. I think they were off last week. Maybe not. I don't know. Now this week, playing Pitt, I can't pick Pitt, so I got to pick North Carolina.
Yeah, this is a tough game to pick because I can see it go either way. Obviously, you have your bias here for this pick. Obviously,
yeah, I can't pick Pitt.
It's hard for me to say. Pitt's been looking pretty decent.
They have. I'll give you that. I'll give them that.
They have looked pretty good. I mean, they did just lose to Oklahoma State in a shootout game. It's tough to say. I'm gonna have to just leave it up to home field advantage. I'm gonna have to go to North Carolina.
All right. Next, I should save this for last because it's my team, Penn State. But I'm gonna say it now. They go to Ann Arbor. They haven't beaten Michigan since 2013 in that 4 overtime game. One of the best games I've ever been to, alongside the Pinstripe Bowl after the 2014 season. So. Go to Ann Arbor, Jim Harbaugh. As I said, they haven't beat them since 2013. So Michigan obviously beat them last year in Happy Valley. Another game I was at. I'd like to take Penn State in an upset. Michigan is really good, but I will take Penn State in an upset. I'm going to take Penn State over Michigan. I have to. I can't pick against Penn State. It's going to come down either as a win or a loss in the record book, but I can't pick against Penn State.
Yeah, I'm obviously going Michigan in this one at home, number 4 team in the country. They'll probably win big, honestly. I mean, I know Luke deep down probably knows that Michigan will probably win this game.
Yeah, I mean, these games come up all the time, with Penn State. They always play, good teams, and I know deep down they will probably lose, but at the same time, I mean, I will say they probably will lose, but I don't want to, pick against them, so I got to pick Penn State.
All right.
Next is LSU at Auburn, SEC matchup. Both teams have been struggling real bad. LSU lost to Wisconsin. Wisconsin almost lost to Georgia State at home. Auburn lost to Clemson on a Hail Mary. Auburn played A&M last week. Hell, you said you ran out of bounds on 4th down. I don't even know who to pick in this game. I thought LSU would have blew out Mississippi State last week, and Les Miles would have been throwing some back. Because they were wearing their throwbacks. If you know what I said that last week, you get my point. You know what I mean. If you don't, you're pretty much stupid. I don't know who to pick in this game.
It is a tough game to pick.
This is a toss-up.
It is a toss-up. I'm just gonna go LSU. I'm just gonna have to pick LSU, I guess. I mean, maybe they get back on track with this game here, start a conference play, possibly. But it's in Auburn, and it can go either way. Like you're saying, it's a coin toss.
It is.
Flip a coin, and whatever side you pick, whatever.
I just remembered, too, I do have LSU in the national championship game now, so
yes,
I got to have them win out, so LSU.
Yeah, that prediction's not looking too good right now.
Well, we'll see. It's still early in the season.
Still early, yes.
Oklahoma State team we just talked about when they played Pitt last week. They go to Waco, play Baylor, who beat Rice last week on Friday night. Art Briles actually attended that game as a fan. Left at halftime, but still surprising to see him there. Yeah, you still got to support his players that he recruited to Baylor and whatnot, but I think Oklahoma State's too good, and I still think they're on revenge after they lost Central Michigan on that Hail Mary 2 weeks ago in a play that shouldn't even have happened.
Yeah, it is a tough one. Oklahoma State could very well be another ranked opponent in this one. Baylor's 16th. This could be another ranked versus ranked matchup if they didn't lose that game at Eastern Michigan, Central Michigan?
Central Michigan.
Central Michigan.
Chippewas.
Yes, okay. So, this is a tough game. I have Baylor at home right now. It's another one of these games that can go either way for me, but definitely not surprised if Oklahoma State wins. I will not be surprised if Baylor does not pick up the win, though.
All right. ABC primetime, 8 o'clock from the Rose Bowl. You got Stanford come down from Palo Alto to play at UCLA in the Rose Bowl. Last time Stanford played in the Rose Bowl was when they won the Rose Bowl at the beginning of the year, at the end of last season, when they demolished Iowa. Christian McCaffrey ran all over the field. I think he'll do the same this week when they play a Pac-12 team, conference opponent in UCLA. I think it's going to be much closer, though, than what people think. Josh Rosen's a good-ass quarterback. I wouldn't be surprised if Stanford wins by 1, or if this game goes to overtime and they win like on the first play of the game, or something crazy. I think is going to happen in this game. Yeah, the Stanford Cal game was the band on the field. Maybe something like that happens. I don't know. I doubt it, but I think Stanford will beat UCLA in a close one.
I will also have to go Stanford in this one.
Christian McCaffrey is just unreal.
He is, and that's a big reason.
Him and Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson's obviously the favorite for the Heisman, as you said, but yeah, go on.
But yeah, Stanford's too good for UCLA at the moment, even at home. Well, it's not technically at home, I guess. Not technically, I guess, right?
What?
This game for UCLA.
No, it's at home.
It's at home. Okay.
It's at the Rose Bowl. They play at the Rose Bowl. They play at the Rose Bowl in Pasadena.
All right.
That's their home stadium.
All right, but still, not enough. I mean, maybe, yeah, like you were saying, McCaffrey being in that stadium again, maybe replicates his performance from the last time he was there. That little bit of magic, you could say.
We'll have to find out and see. There's actually 4 ranked versus ranked games again this weekend. The last one this week is Arkansas versus Texas A&M from Dallas in Jerry World. These teams have played there every single year. They've played since A&M joined the SEC back in 2011. I really like Brett Bielema in Arkansas. I liked him when he was at Wisconsin. I've said that I don't know how many times before. I'll say it again. A&M, they beat Abilene State or something like that, 67-0, or Southwest Texas State or something, 67-0 2 weeks ago at home. They beat Auburn last week, but Arkansas went into Fort Worth, beat TCU in overtime. And as I said, I like Brett Bielema, so I'm going to have to take Woo Pig in Arkansas.
I am also going to take Arkansas in this game. Arkansas is that team pretty much that it's like they come in, they just win these types of games. They win these games against these top 10 ranked opponents like this. We've seen it for last couple years now. I think it is. They've done this many times. They just did to TCU, as you just mentioned, just a couple weeks ago. So Arkansas, they win these types of games, and I think they'll do it again here against Texas A&M.
Sounds good. Now the last game of this week that we are picking is the Washington Huskies go down to Tucson to play the Arizona Wildcats. and Rich Rodriguez. He might be on the hot seat here coming up. Feel bad for the guy. Should have never left West Virginia to go to Michigan. Michigan fires him, and then he goes works for CBS Sports there for a little bit, for about a year or two, and then Arizona hires him. He's been doing all right, but Arizona should be doing better for what their expectations are. Washington, Chris Peterson came over from Boise State last year. Everyone knows what he did at Boise State. It started with Jared Zabransky and forget what the running back's name was, but when they beat Oklahoma in the Fiesta Bowl back in 2007, 2008, and then he proposed to his girlfriend, was the start of his Boise State dynasty, I guess you could call it, for a non-Power 5 team in a non-Power 5 conference. They played in the WAC and then they played in the Mountain West, but this is another toss-up. I really don't know who to pick in this, but I'm going to go Washington on the road.
I'm also going to go Washington here on the road. They're number 9 in the country at the moment. I mean, they haven't really played anyone too great yet. They haven't had any real tests. Conference play gets started. They certainly probably will now, but this is a kind of a tough game for them, I guess you could say. But yeah, Washington, I think by maybe a couple touchdowns for me.
Couple touchdowns?
Yeah, all right. And with that concludes for the college football part of the show. Yeah. When we come back, we will get into the NFL Week 2 results review, so to speak, and the Week 3 picks, as well as WWE Clash of Champions predictions.
Do you like sports cards, video games, or collecting interesting items? Then Pastime Collectibles is the place for you. Pastime Collectibles is a collectible store in Clearfield, Pennsylvania. Pastime Collectibles sells hobby boxes, vintage cards, Nintendo games and systems, coins, jerseys, memorabilia, and more. Be sure to like Pastime Collectibles on Facebook and follow at Pastime Collect on Twitter. You can contact them by calling 814-762-1410, messaging them on either Facebook or Twitter, or you can even email them at pastime.collectibles@gmail.com. Do you like hunting, fishing, or talking about the outdoors? If so, you need to check out Downriver Outdoors, an outdoors channel on YouTube that brings you some of the best footage of hunting and fishing from the backwoods of Central PA. They also tell some great outdoors stories. Be sure to subscribe to Downriver Outdoors on YouTube.
Welcome back, everyone. And now we're going to go into the NFL as we take a look back at Week 2 of the NFL season now, the young season for the NFL. Last week, well, I guess we're not doing picks yet. We won't get into that. But, last week, we're going to go through it. What was the biggest upset? I mean, NFL, you don't really go by upsets. That's more of a college thing. But still, biggest upset, you could say, from the NFL.
No one thought the Rams would beat the Seahawks.
I don't think so. Especially what they did on Monday Night Football.
Yes. They played like that 7-9 shit team that Jeff Fisher says. No one thought they would have won, but they did. So I'd have to go with that.
Yeah, Rams over Seahawks. Also, Vikings beating the Packers. I mean, the first game in a new stadium, though, I mean, the atmosphere. I mean, with Sam Bradford, new quarterback coming, also losing AP partway through the game. He wasn't doing much anyway, but still, Vikings beating the Packers. I don't know if many people thought the Vikings would actually win that game outside of Minnesotans, I guess.
Yeah.
I could say. But that's another game I would have to say real quick. What about the best game from this past week?
I'd have to go with that Packers-Vikings game because, as you said, no one thought they could have won with Sam Bradford, and especially with Peterson going down then. But yeah, I'd have to go there.
Yeah, it was definitely one of the best games, one of the most exciting games. The Falcons-Raiders game was also a pretty close game at the end. It was another one of those games that we've seen. The Falcons looked like they were going to easily win this game, and Raiders come back. You said it either off air or on air. I don't remember. But
I think I said it both. I think I might have said it wrong on air, but what happened was the Raiders were down 35-28 with 2 seconds left. Ball at the 20-yard line. Have to go 80 yards to score a touchdown. They throw a Hail Mary, but they throw it short to Amari Cooper, and then he starts throwing it backwards. And then Michael Crabtree ends up getting it at like the 15-yard line, so they lost like 5 yards after, well, probably 10, 15 yards after he caught it, and then he just ran out of bounds. So, as time expired, obviously, there's only 2 seconds left. So, yeah. The Raiders lost after they beat your Saints in week 1.
Yeah, that was another pretty good game from this past weekend. The Jets-Bills game was kind of, it was more of a shootout type of game, but it was a pretty close game, you could say.
Well, yeah, towards the end of the game it was. Yeah,
that always helps. The Colts-Broncos gets
those ratings up.
The Colts-Broncos had the ability to be that, but then Andrew Luck got strip sacked on the very first play of a possible game-winning drive to completely derail any of that happening. But Vikings-Packers, definitely one of the more exciting games in prime time. That's always a good thing. That adds to it.
And now Peterson's out 3 to 4 months.
Yes.
That will be pretty much the season unless they make the playoffs. And there's going to be talk if they do make the playoffs if he can play. So just throwing it out there, that's what you'll be hearing come January if the Vikings make the playoffs.
And it's a big win for them.
Every single day.
That's a big win for them, though, beating the Packers this
early
on.
Oh, for sure. At home in their new stadium to open it up.
That helps them out right there in the hunt for the playoffs. They already got one up on the Packers. So, moving on, what team really impressed you from this past week?
Nobody really impressed me, Corey. A lot of the games were, close. There was one blowout, the Cardinals over the Buccaneers at home. Jameis Winston threw 4 interceptions, but no one really impressed me. It was an off week for the NFL compared to week 1, and they always have these weeks, a couple weeks throughout the season, so nobody really impressed me this past week.
Yeah, there's no real particular team that was like, oh, that was very impressive this week. Cardinals, you talk about the Cardinals, it was kind of unexpected, maybe not to that extent, but like Cardinals winning that game in probably big fashion was pretty much expected, I think, over the Buccaneers. The Buccaneers did look pretty good in week 1 over the Falcons winning that game. Jameis Winston looked great in that game, looked terrible in this game this past week. But
there was one player that impressed me, though.
Yeah.
And that was Carson Wentz on Monday Night Football. He was the first rookie quarterback to start and win his team's first 2 games of a season with no team turnovers. That means he did not throw an interception, did not fumble, nothing. Didn't turn the ball over at all. Really, he might be, Rookie of the Year right now. Maybe him, Dak Prescott, if Tony Romo doesn't come back. You got Zeke Elliott. A lot of good rookies this year.
Yeah.
And then, there's another quarterback that just hasn't played, that would be good in my opinion, and everybody knows who that is. Plays for the Jets. He's number 5, so go look him up.
Yeah, if you don't already know. But
if you don't know.
But either way, moving on to the final of these questions, which we're both in agreement on, I would have to say. The most disappointing team from this past week, we already alluded to it, the Seahawks.
Yeah.
Losing to the Rams. Not only that, but last week, too, barely beating the Dolphins. At home, which is pretty disappointing on itself. They've only scored 15 points all year. The Seahawks have, just the 12 last week, needing a game-winning touchdown. And then this week, just 1 field goal against the Rams. I do realize it was the first game in L.A. for the Rams here this season, and for a while now. But still, you barely beat the Dolphins at home, but then you lose to a team that didn't even score a point on Monday Night Football the week prior, and still haven't scored a touchdown in the season.
As the LA Rams since 1994. They've scored their first point since then, but they still haven't scored a touchdown.
No touchdowns, though, for the Rams this entire season, and the Seahawks lost again. Looking very disappointed, especially Russell Wilson, the quarterback there. Really missing Marshawn Lynch. I said that last week, too, but the Seahawks are missing Marshawn Lynch as their running back, that's for sure. Now, moving on to our Week 3 predictions, picks. 8 games for you this week. As bye weeks start next week, we'll be mentioning those when they come next week. But either way, Thursday Night Football this week. Maybe not as good as a game as it could have been, but Texans versus Patriots here on Thursday Night Football.
Yeah, last week too, we both went 5-4, and we're both 10-8.
Oh, yes.
10-8 on the year too. Throwing that out there. I know you forgot.
I forgot. Yes.
Anyways, Texans Patriots from Foxborough. You know me, I like Bill O'Brien and the Houston Texans because he coached up here at Penn State for 2 seasons. I understand why he left. I've said that how many times before. I'll say it again. Brady is not playing, obviously, for the Patriots. He's still serving a suspension. Jimmy Garoppolo then went down with an injury in the first half against the Dolphins. And then Jacoby Brissett, the rookie out of NC State, came in. Didn't play, too bad. And, Dolphins almost came back and won. It came down to the last play of the game. It seems like the NFL, there's been a lot of close games through 2 weeks. Another reason why you should watch football all weekend long. If you have something else better to do, that's all right. But in your opinion, if you have something else better to do, in my opinion, football is what you do all weekend long. Is you watch football. Anyways, getting back to the game, I don't think Brissett is going to be good enough to take down the Texans. I mean, yeah, they are playing at home, but New England's going to have to run the ball a lot. I have LeGarrette Blount in fantasy. I'm honestly going to start him because neither Brady or Garoppolo is playing. So, Texans over the Patriots in a close game, though, because it's a Thursday night game. It's in Foxborough. Last time Houston came to New England was on Monday night a couple seasons ago. So, 2 night games in 2 meetings in New England. New England blew them out the last time. Then these two teams met last year on Sunday Night Football in Houston, and New England won. So, but I think third time's a charm now for the Texans. Texans over the Patriots.
Yeah, Texans in this one.
Their offense has been lighting up people too. Will Fuller, DeAndre Hopkins, Lamar Miller, Brock Osweiler. Their defense is stout. Maybe the Texans go to the AFC Championship game this year.
They are looking very good this year. They did just win a pretty good game last week against the Chiefs at home. Now this week they get a pretty weakened Patriots team, at least at the quarterback position. Jacoby Brissett starting now for this week. I mean, I'm picking the Texans, but I won't be surprised if the Patriots pull it out because, of course, Brissett will probably be ready to go here on Thursday. No doubt about it.
Probably, and then they don't have any other quarterbacks on the roster because Brady's suspended, Garoppolo's hurt. They do have Julian Edelman, though, who is their one wide receiver. He played quarterback at Kent State, They did bring in 2 other quarterbacks, though, to work them out yesterday, but they did not sign them. So they're obviously going with 2 quarterbacks in Brissett and Julian Edelman to back him up. But then I did hear that too that the Patriots told Jimmy Garoppolo Tom Brady played through the same injury, so you need to play. So I wouldn't be surprised if Garoppolo does start.
Maybe that would change the outlook of the game, possibly. But
for sure.
Yeah. But with an injury like that, I don't know. I mean, you'd have the fact that Brady will be coming back really soon, so maybe throw Garoppolo out there, maybe. I mean, because you don't need him for like 2 more games. If he could just give it his all for 2 more games, possibly. Garoppolo, that is. I mean, you'll get Brady back, so. Either way, in agreement, Texans over the Patriots here on Thursday. Then we move on to Sunday, and our first game is a divisional matchup as the Lions travel to Green Bay to play the Packers at Lambeau Field. The Packers, I think, are going to win this game big. The Lions, they haven't been that bad this year as I thought they would be without Calvin Johnson retiring. I thought that would be a big blow. But they did lose their running back, Amir Abdullah, their initial starting running back, Amir Abdullah, for the rest of the year. Now he's on the IR. So now
I did not know that.
Yeah, so Theo Riddick is now the number 1 back in Detroit now. So that adds a little bit.
I know he got hurt. I didn't know he was out for the year.
I know he's on the IR. I don't.
Oh, he's obviously done for the year.
Yeah. So, but yeah, Packers big in this one at Lambeau.
First game in Lambeau for the Packers this year. They played at Jacksonville week 1 and then played at Minnesota last week on Sunday night. It's their first of 5 or 6 home games in a row in Green Bay. They also have a bye week in there, so they don't have another away game until the start of November. So the rest of September here and then all of October they're playing at home. As you said, the Lions have impressed so far this season, as unlike we thought they would, but losing Abdullah, starting running back, Theo Riddick, yeah, he's a starter now. He's never been a starter before. They've always split carries. Packers are just too good. especially they'll be ready after they lost to Minnesota on Sunday night this past week. So, yeah, Green Bay.
All right. Third straight week, we got the Broncos and the Bengals featured as they take on each other here in Cincinnati. I am going to go with the Broncos here in this one. Their defense is carrying them yet again this season. I think they will again in this game against the Bengals. The Bengals haven't been super great. They lost to the Steelers last week, barely beat the Jets the week prior to that. I'm not sold on the Bengals in any way, really. I had them on the decline this year in terms of record. So I think this is another one of those. This is one of those games where I think they'll lose this one. It's a pretty big game for them, but it's one of those situations as it's going to be pretty much all year. Trevor Siemian, starting quarterback for the Broncos, he just has to do basically just enough, and then the defense will carry him. And I think that's what's going to be in this game.
All right, yeah, I think this game is a toss-up. These two teams met last year or it might have been the year before, Monday Night Football. I believe they met last year on Monday Night Football, too. Have to look into that. Anyways, Cincinnati, Tyler Boyd, this come from a Steeler fan, too. He was down. That was not a fumble. Cincinnati could have won that game, could have tied it at least to go to overtime, but the refs, called it, on the field, so I'm going to have to stand with that. I'm not going to sit here and say, the Steelers cheated and everything, but the Broncos have been impressive. I picked them week 1, didn't pick them last week. I got to pick them again, though. Denver over Cincinnati.
All right. Vikings taking on the Panthers. I'm going to go Panthers in this one at home. The Vikings no AP anymore. I mean, he wasn't really doing much this season anyway, but still, backup running backs. You got Sam Bradford at the helm. He did look pretty good last week there against the Packers. Looked pretty comfortable. I know he said himself that he was pretty comfortable in the system, but I think the Panthers are just a little too good right now. Newton and Benjamin, their combination is working so well this year. They have linked back up from the 2 years ago in Benjamin's rookie season. So those two guys are looking great. And Olsen, of course, helping him out as well. So I think the offense of the Panthers is too much. Also, their defense is just good enough to stop Sam Bradford and McKinnon or Asiata, whoever's in the backfield for the Vikes.
It should be Jarek McKinnon. He should be getting
they'll split carries, though.
They will split carries, though. So that's a fantasy move. I would pick him up, but I wouldn't start him unless you need him desperately. As you said, Peterson's done. Well, as I said, Peterson's out 3 or 4 months. So, Carolina's playing at home. They should have beat Denver. They didn't. And the San Francisco game last week was good. It was a high-scoring game. So, they're playing at home again, Carolina.
Jets take on the Chiefs in a pretty good matchup here at Arrowhead Stadium. I'm taking the Chiefs because, well, first of all, it is in Arrowhead. It's one of the toughest places to play in the NFL. Chiefs, they've looked pretty well. They haven't looked that great this season, though. Almost losing to the Chargers week 1 and then losing to the Texans last week. But the Jets also haven't looked that particularly great as well. I know I'm really big on the Jets this season. They do have the pieces, at least on the offensive end mostly, to be very good this season. But I'm going to take Chiefs almost solely on home field here at Arrowhead Stadium.
The Chiefs probably are the better team at the moment, but the Jets looked real impressive last week on Thursday Night Football after coming off a loss. They're rested longer than the Chiefs since they played on Thursday night. Yeah, Arrowhead's a tough place to play. That and Seattle, 2 toughest places to play in the NFL, in my opinion. So, Chiefs are playing at home, but the Jets are doing well. Jets.
All right. The primetime, at least day session matchup for this week, the 4:30 game, basically, is the Steelers taking on the Eagles in the Battle of Pennsylvania here in Philadelphia. As I'm going to take the Eagles, of course, as my philosophy of not picking the Steelers, because I just don't like the Steelers at all. I'm not going to pick them, even though I will say they probably will win the game. I'm not going to pick them though. Similar to what you, Penn State. I can't pick the Steelers.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Wentz has looked pretty impressive. They could win this game actually though, and honestly, I honestly think that a little bit. But Eagles in this one. I know you're going Steelers though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't really need to get into anything.
Yeah.
Anytime Steelers pops up, it's probably Steelers.
That and Penn State. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
These two teams were merged back in World War II, though. They're called the Steagles. I don't know if anybody knew that. If you didn't, now you know. You learn something new every day. But yeah, Steelers are the Eagles. Yeah. Carson Wentz, he's good, but I'm actually going to support him and like him. Not over Christian Hackenberg. That was who we referenced, earlier. If you didn't get it or look it up yet, but Carson Wentz, he's good. As I said, he might win Rookie of the Year. We'll have to see. I think he'll have a good game, but I think Pittsburgh's defense will be the factor here in this game. Both these teams met in preseason too, so I don't know if that's going to have any effect on how this game is played, on how each team plays. So, but yeah, Steelers over the Eagles.
All right. Sunday night is the Bears taking on the Cowboys at Jerry World.
Cowgirls.
Okay. I'm going to take the Cowboys. I really like what I've seen from Dak Prescott. He's managing the game really well. Very surprised by that. He just won last week against the Redskins in Washington there. Pretty close game. So I like what they've done. Ezekiel Elliott as well. But the Bears, they're terrible. I mean, I've said it before. You're realizing it now after Monday Night Football last week.
They're god-awful.
They are not very good.
And now Jay Cutler's hurt.
Yes.
You have Brian Hoyer as your quarterback.
Only worse.
Yeah, I did talk about him last week, but and I didn't say, I said it, how those Michigan State quarterbacks got to the NFL. I didn't say how good they were.
Yeah.
Those quarterbacks that have gotten to the NFL, they're average. They're not, they're getting a paycheck. They're not bad though. But they're not the worst, but they're sure as hell ain't the greatest of all time.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Bears, they were god-awful last week on Monday Night Football.
So Cowboys?
Yeah, Cowboys. They've been playing well. I know another one of my friends, if he's out there listening, will like this pick.
All right. This is the Monday Night Football game. It is a pretty historical game, you could say. It's the 10-year anniversary of the opening of the Superdome again after Hurricane Katrina 10 years ago. And it's the Falcons and the Saints, the same two teams that played in that game, as a matter of fact. And for the first time this year, I'm picking the Saints to win this game. I picked them against them last 2 weeks, and I was right. But, I mean...
You were right,
but
you should have picked your team. You got to pick your team.
But I'm picking the Saints in this one.
Not unless you know they're going to get blown out.
But the Saints, they always play the Falcons really well. It's the big rivalry game, basically, for these two. It'll probably be an emotional night with the historical... going on, the history going on, rather. But they always play the Falcons well at home in prime time. The Saints normally play pretty well in these games, especially Drew Brees. So I think the Saints probably in a close one because the defense will make it close, as in it'll be a shootout, I think. Basically, the defense will give up a lot of points and Drew Brees will be forced to throw for like 400 yards or something.
I have Drew Brees, Brandon Cooks, and Mark Ingram in fantasy football. Saints.
Okay, enough said right there. Either way, I like it. But
of course you do. I picked your team. I picked your team every single week, and you just picked them for the first time all year. I was 1-1 with them in the first 2 weeks, but I think I'll be 2-1 after this week. And you'll be 1-2. Am I right?
They're 0-2. They've lost both weeks. They're 0-2 right now. They lost to Giants last second.
I picked the Raiders. Yeah, but yeah, you're right. I got over. Yeah, I've been talking too much. I'm trying to do something else here, and yeah.
All right,
you're right. I'm wrong. I'll own up to it.
Okay, now it's time for Clash of Champions. As we finally get into that, I previously alluded to it at the beginning of the show and talked about the Cruiserweight Classic, and now we're actually going to get into it. I have 7 matches. 5 of them are title matches, 2 undercard matches, with one of these matches with title implications. That'll be the best of 7 series final match. But we'll start with Chris Jericho taking on Sami Zayn in what I'm going to call this is a toss-up one. It can go either way. There's no real way to predict it. I'm going to pick Sami Zayn. I'm going to say the good guy gets the win in this one over Chris Jericho because there's not really much to say about this match. It's pretty much a toss-up.
I referenced the list of Across the Goal Line earlier. That was coming from the list of Jericho or the list of stupid idiots from this past week on Monday Night Raw. I think he puts over Sami Zayn because I heard he's going to be working with some of the cruiserweights after Clash of Champions here. So Sami Zayn over Chris Jericho.
All right. The match I just mentioned, the Cesaro versus Sheamus, match 7 of the Best of 7 series, winner take all. I have Cesaro winning this one because I think that's what the storyline is going to be.
Yep.
Him coming back from 3-0 down. I felt like this for a while now. Almost going into it, I felt that he was down.
That, yeah.
I wasn't sure about whether he'd be down 3-0. I didn't know that was going to happen, but I think it's all built for Cesaro to make a big comeback and win. Also, Cesaro needing that push, and according to Mick Foley, the winner of this series is going to get a title match at some point. So,
probably the United States Championship. There's no way in hell they're going to put him in the Universal Championship.
I have that written down here later on when I talk about the United States title match.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think it would be for the U.S. title, but either way, I have Cesaro winning the match 7.
I also have Cesaro winning. I wouldn't be surprised if Sheamus wins because it will be for the U.S. Championship. I just know it. I'm not good at picking stuff. But he's held it before, so they could put him on it again. Put the championship on him again.
Well, both then have, because Cesaro was U.S. champion at one point too. When he was with Jack Swagger, he was the U.S. champion.
Yeah. But then that brings back the rivalry with Sheamus and Rusev because Sheamus lost it to Rusev. So maybe they go back in that direction. So
the first time, yeah.
It makes sense with whoever.
Yeah, either way, it'll probably work.
But I'm going to pick Cesaro because, as you said, we both thought that this would happen. He'd be down 3-0, come back and win it.
I wasn't sure about 3-0. I know he'd be probably down. About
3-0. Still.
Yeah, but still. Either way,
you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, we'll move on.
We both have Cesaro.
Yeah, we'll move on to the tag team title match as the New Day take on Gallows and Anderson in a rematch of SummerSlam. And I'm picking Gallows and Anderson again. I picked him at SummerSlam, and I'll pick him for the same exact reasons I picked him for SummerSlam. The New Day have held the titles since the past SummerSlam. They've held them for over a year now, and I think their time is up. I mean, also, I think they need to drop the titles, get other teams involved in the division, Enzo and Kaz, the Shining Stars, whoever, but get other teams opening things up for the division in its whole. Also, being faces, I feel like the faces need to chase the heel for the title. I think that's kind of basic wrestling. So, Gallows and Anderson, the heels, coming out on top in this one. Okay. Handguns. Finger guns. It's
the club. The Bullet Club.
Former Bullet Club members, Gallows and Anderson for Luke.
Yes.
Okay. Triple threat match for the Women's Championship as Charlotte takes on Sasha Banks and Bayley. I'm going to go Charlotte. It's simple for me because Bayley's very new to the main roster. I don't think she deserves the title just yet. Sasha just dropped it a month ago at SummerSlam. One of them winning, I think, will devalue the title a little bit. So I think Charlotte needs to keep it for a month or two longer yet, and then lose it to one of them, maybe at like the Survivor Series, possibly. I would see.
I agree with you. I think Charlotte's going to win, and then she'll drop it to one of the two. Probably Sasha. Maybe at Survivor Series, maybe at the Royal Rumble. And then, they'll have that match that WWE wants, Sasha and Bayley, at WrestleMania 33. And then Sasha puts over Bayley. Bayley wins it in NXT's backyard in Orlando, Florida.
All right.
So, yeah, Charlotte this week, and then we'll, get on with that later.
The U.S. title match as Roman Reigns takes on Rusev. I have written down Roman Reigns to win the U.S. title.
Really?
Rusev's had it for a while. I think WWE might go in a different direction, possibly. He seems like the best thing available at the moment to win the U.S. title. Of course, I also see that this is where I referenced the match, Best of 7. I could see Cesaro's title match being for this belt, but I'm picking Roman. because I want him to be out of the main event scene. Actually, and him winning the U.S. title will get him out of the main event.
That is true.
So that kind of helps. Not like a win-win, more of a loss-win type thing. A loss because he actually wins the title, but I think people would be more receptive of him as a mid-carder. I think because I feel people are just like it's overdone him in the main event. You need to take him into the mid-card for a little bit.
I really don't know who to take in this. I've been debating.
Yeah. This is probably one of the hardest matches to pick in the card, especially the title matches.
Well, because it goes back to that Sheamus Cesaro match.
That's kind of
if they have somebody win that, whoever they have win that, more than likely is going to be facing the winner of this match. So if they have Cesaro win, and then they have Rusev retain, that is babyface heel. If you have Cesaro win and you have Roman win, that's babyface.
Technical babyface.
Babyface heel. He's like a Cena. He gets the boos, he gets the cheers, and that's what you want. You don't want. As a superstar, you don't want just all cheers because then you have people. You still want people to hate you. In my opinion. But then if they have Sheamus win, and then Rusev retain, you have heel. But then if you have Sheamus win and Roman win, you have heel babyface, somewhat. So it's hard to tell what they're gonna do. I picked Cesaro earlier. I think Rusev will retain. Now maybe they throw the storyline in with Lana. Maybe she turns on Rusev even though they just got married in real life. And, she goes with Roman then, maybe. I don't know. We'll have to see come Sunday at Clash of Champions from Indianapolis, Indiana, which is on the WWE Network for only $9.99 a month. But yeah, Rusev retains, and then Cesaro wins the best of 7 match and then gets his title shot with Rusev. More than likely for the U.S. Championship. That's what we're saying.
Yeah, definitely. At least for that portion of it. T.J. Perkins, Brian Kendrick, the match I alluded to much earlier in the show for the Cruiserweight Championship.
The Brian Kendrick.
You're going to... Okay.
I'm going to get on you about it. It's the Brian Kendrick.
It's either or, honestly, but...
True,
T.J. Perkins will win this match. Seeing as he was just crowned the champion by winning the Cruiserweight Classic, it wouldn't make sense for him to drop it immediately. Because, then why did they just put it on Kendrick in the Cruiserweight Classic then? Because it wouldn't make any sense for him to win this big tournament and then lose. Because he's supposed to be the best cruiserweight in the world.
Yeah.
According to... by winning that. Also...
But maybe... because the Brian Kendrick has been in WWE before.
Well, that's why I think he's in this match. That's why he's in this match.
But then if they have him win, they have the Cruiserweight on Raw then, obviously. They already have it. How do I want to say it? Because he already knows how WWE works.
Yeah.
Perkins has not worked with WWE before. Maybe they have him go down to NXT then. They have him drop it and, give it to Kendrick, and then Cedric Alexander, I think, deserves to be the number 1 contender after that. If you haven't watched Ring of Honor, go look up Cedric Alexander.
Yeah, he's very impressive. He is what he's what Apollo Crews should be.
Yes.
But he's not.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I thought that last night. I'm like, well, Raw has Cedric Alexander and Rich Swann now.
Yeah.
2 African American wrestlers. And then SmackDown has Apollo Crews. It's just his gimmick. I don't even want to talk about him. Both of us hate him.
Yeah.
We don't, but yeah, you're right.
Yeah, definitely. Main event is Seth Rollins taking on Kevin Owens for the Universal Championship.
These are all the matches already.
Yes, there's only 7.
Yeah, that's weird. Well, it seems weird because we're so used to them all being combined with Raw and SmackDown, but now they're, brand exclusive pay-per-views. So, okay.
Yeah, so at least that I saw. I mean,
I know the pre-show match is Nia Jax and
There's no point in picking it. So
Alicia Fox, you're right. There is no point in picking it.
but yeah, Seth Rollins, Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens going to retain. They are building Seth as the new top babyface in the company, and as it typically goes, I already mentioned this previously. The babyface chases the heel for the title. That's just how it goes. So they'll keep doing that for a little bit longer. Maybe Triple H shows up here. Maybe later on down the line.
There's rumors that he's going to be showing up.
Maybe he continues to keep doing it, and then it all leads to a match with those two that we've all been waiting for, pretty much, as it seems, for some time now. Triple H versus Seth Rollins. We've been kind of waiting for this now.
Maybe they have a triple threat, and he puts both of them over, and then he's done wrestling for good. Because really, Seth Rollins was his number one choice, and then now it's Kevin Owens.
Yeah.
They were both NXT champion, and NXT is Triple H's baby, is what they say. So, maybe puts them both over. Maybe they're gonna have a triple threat for this title at WrestleMania or something like that. But then Finn Balor could come back, if he's healthy enough, because he's hurt right now. We'll have to see. Who'd you pick in this?
KO.
You have KO Mania. Did you have anything else to say before I pick?
No.
Okay. I didn't know if I cut you off there. I know I cut you off
No,
all the time.
That's fine.
Because I like to talk too much. I think Kevin Owens will win this week, but I wouldn't be surprised if they do put it on Seth, because he's lost how many matches since he's come back in May already. Doesn't seem like he's been back that long. Like, where the hell did the summer go? Hell, it's fall already.
Yeah.
But I think Kevin Owens will win and retain the Universal Championship that he just won 2 weeks ago now. Has it been 3 weeks yet? You're going to be 3 weeks.
Something like that.
But yeah, Kevin Owens, Triple H might come back, screw Rollins. I don't know. Maybe he comes back and screws Owens, but I don't think they go that direction because he already turned on Rollins. Who knows? We'll have to find out and see. As I said, Clash Champions is Sunday, September 25th, 2016, on the WWE Network for only $9.99 a month. They also have a live event in State College, Pennsylvania, that both of us will be at. So yeah, Kevin Owens will retain. We'll get to see AJ Styles, John Cena, Dean Ambrose, all the SmackDown superstars, as I said earlier. But yeah, Kevin Owens over Seth Rollins.
And that's where we're going to wrap it up for Clash of Champions. And now it's time for the question of the week this week. We're going to the thing where we saw Michael Vick saying that Lamar Jackson is better than he was in college. And the question of the week this week is simply, do you think Lamar Jackson is better or as good as Michael Vick at this point in his career?
I don't think so. It's still too early to tell. Lamar Jackson had an average season last year with the Louisville Cardinals, and he's just come out of the gate this year so far. As I said last week, he was putting up video game numbers. Hell, the whole team's putting up video game numbers. They put up 62 on Syracuse 2 weeks ago, and then they put up 63 against Florida State at home this past week. So I don't think right now he's as good as Vic. Maybe in the future, because when Vic got to Va Tech, Virginia Tech, he was highly recruited out of Newport News, Virginia, and almost went to Syracuse. Came down to Syracuse and Virginia Tech. Go watch the Bleacher Report documentary, The Rise and Fall, I believe it's called, of Michael Vick. It's about with all his dogfighting stuff and everything, but it tells you he almost went to Syracuse to replace Donovan McNabb, who was the quarterback up there. But as I say, because he was a highly recruited athlete. But right now, Lamar Jackson is not as good as Michael Vick right now so far in his young career.
Yeah.
But as I said, he might turn out to be better than Vic. I don't know. We both grew up watching Vic.
Yeah.
He was good until he got in trouble. And then he was still good after, but he wasn't the same. And it's normally like that, and you hate to see it like that, but it is what it is, and you really can't do anything about it. But Lamar Jackson's right now not as good as Michael Vick.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I mean, he doesn't really have a giant body of work to really compare him to Mike Vick at this point. That's one of the things you kind of said that there. Also, I mean, I don't think he's really proved himself. I don't think, to me, in my eyes, I mean, we're all jumping on him being the Heisman winner and stuff like that. But, I mean, he hasn't really shown me enough with his arm to be like...
Yeah, that is true.
He's doing it all with his legs. And, I mean, this is an era of the running quarterback, which Michael Vick pretty much got started when he came out. But Lamar Jackson is taking it to a new level, at least this season so far. I mean, I think, yeah, he has more rushing touchdowns than passing touchdowns, that's for sure. Just 1-4 just last week, passing to rushing. That's not going to help him in the next level. He needs to get better at throwing the ball, for sure. Also, he hasn't really played like a big game. I mean, last week was a pretty big game, but I want to see what he does under pressure at a big-time game and under pressure, like game-winning drive type situation, something like that. I want to see what he can do in the big moments with his arm more than his legs, because that'll help him in the next level, speaking, but it's not going to be that good if he's just reliant on his running game, because we've seen running quarterbacks come and go in this league. Robert Griffin's probably the most recent example, I think. He's a running quarterback, but he just gets injured so much. He doesn't have the body to be running constantly in the NFL. He doesn't have the body, he doesn't have the muscles or the strength and stuff, because he gets injured all the time, because he's taking big hits from guys because he becomes a runner.
And I just remembered too, Corey, Bobby Petrino, I knew obviously he was at Louisville before, and then he left to go to Arkansas. He got in some trouble there, as a coach, but before that, he went to the Atlanta Falcons. And his first season was when Vic got in trouble. It was supposed to be Vic, supposed to be a starting quarterback. And Bobby Petrino is a quarterback guru. He's produced some good quarterbacks. And now relating these two, he never had the chance to, work with Vic, because Vic got in trouble and went to Leavenworth for two and a half years for his dogfighting scandal. But everybody should know about that. If you don't, look it up. So now he has Lamar Jackson. A lot of people comparing to him. I'd really like to see what Bob Petrino has to say. I doubt we'd be able to get him on here. But if we ever do, or if we ever see anything, out there that he comments on something like this, is Lamar Jackson as good as Vic or better? Because he almost had the opportunity to coach Vic, but it was like the month before the season, like a couple months before the season started, he got in trouble. But you know what I'm saying. I'm trying to word it the right way. So I'd really like to see what Bobby Petrino has to say. If anybody knows Bobby Petrino, knows his number, email. I'm sure I could look his email up and we could email him and see what he has to say for comment, and see if we can get anything back from him. I'm actually going to do that when we get done recording here, and see if we get a response from him. If we do, we'll talk about it next week, or whenever we get the response, we'll talk about it.
Yeah, but yeah, we're both on the same page saying Lamar Jackson is not as good as Michael Vick at this point. But nevertheless,
Yeah.
we'll have to see about what he does later on in his career.
As I said, the season's young. He had an average season last year. People were raving about him, including us, but we'll have to see. And before you end the show, because I think you're about ready to do that, I want to throw something out there. I actually had the great opportunity this past week. I did not tell you about this. I totally forgot until just now, and I'm sorry about that, Corey. You'll actually hear it now for the first time, and I'll explain it to you after we get done recording here. But as I said in our Q&A interview, that we uploaded last week, 2 weeks after we recorded on August 29th, I had said I wanted to do something like this with somebody else. But nothing happened. I just said check out mutual friends. But still, check out mutual friends. But that person got a hold of me because he's actually attending Clarion University and wanted me to call in on. He actually started a show up there at Clarion. with other people. Another one of our friends too, Derek Rin, who is on. He's part of that now. And you can check it out on tunein.com. You got to search WCUC. Their station's called The Clutch. Okay? But the show that they do is called Football Talk and Classic Rock. It's every Sunday morning at 11 a.m. Till 12 noon, 12:30. And it's called Football Talk and Classic Rock, as I said. They just talk all NFL. Nothing else. So be sure to check them out. I had the great opportunity to be on it this past week for about 5 to 10 minutes and call in and give my opinion on some stuff. So I told them I told Chase I would give them a little shout out on here this week. So yeah, be sure to check out Football Talk and Classic Rock on WCUC on the tunein.com or TuneIn app. And they bring you some of the best NFL coverage week in and week out now. But we have everything. I don't want to throw them under their bus, but we cover everything: college and NFL, wrestling, hockey, basketball. You know the whole deal now if you listen to us week in and week out. And for that, I'm going to send it back to Corey. He'll wrap up the show, give you the whole shebang that he does week in and week out. Yep. So yeah. What do you got?
Yep.
Did you change anything up in the end?
No. It's going to remain the same until something changes, I guess.
Until we add another social media site or
something happens.
We did say in the Q&A too that we wanted to maybe expand it, yes. Get it out on something else. We thought about SoundCloud. We're still thinking about that. But as of right now, we're still uploading to YouTube. So yeah.
And with that, that's going to wrap it up this week on Across the Goal Line. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already. Like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at ATGL16. All those links available in the description of this video. Answer that question of the week on Facebook or Twitter by voting in our poll. And you can follow Luke at CoinLuke96 and me at CMAins on Twitter as well. And don't forget to buy our merch, which you can contact us about on all the social media platforms or emailing us at acrossgoalline2016 at gmail.com. And for Luke Goddard, I'm Corey Mains, and we will see you on the next edition of Across the Goal Line, live from the field